Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. In today's video we're going to be testing out another dupe of the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. This seems to be a very promising dupe. Not every single shade is duped in this palette, but I would say 99% of them are. Unfortunately, you don't get some of the more pinky and turquoise shades in this palette. However, in exchange, you get the most amazing gold and silver color you will ever find in drugstore. If any of you hasn't seen yet, this is the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. Absolutely beautiful and huge. Just to compare, this is the size of the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette next to it. As you know, they contain the same number of shades, but the packaging is just so big on the Jeffree Star palette. It's definitely not travel friendly, but oh my god, it's gorgeous. So like I said before, very similarly to Huda's palette, it contains 18 shades, 3 rows with 6 shades each, and as you can see, as you go further down, it gets darker and darker. You have an almost black shade in this corner and a shimmery white shade in the other corner. The color theme of this palette is absolutely gorgeous. It has all sorts of different shades of blue in it. It has some gorgeous turquoise shades. It has some nudes and pinks, a beautiful gold shade, and some amazing gray shades like the colors called Power and Cremated. They are a gray color with a hint of blue in them. Absolutely beautiful. Now the Revolution palette is, first of all, a hell of a lot smaller. It still has 16 shades, the same kind of a layout, 3 rows with 6 pens in each. Nothing we haven't seen before. Here are the gorgeous silver and gold shades I was talking about. One of them is called Glacier, the other one is called Gloss. Oh my god, they are out of this world. I will swatch them for you in a second. Other than that, as you can see, there is no pink in this palette. There is no real turquoise, although Icicle and Melt do seem to be a bit more of a turquoise. They are just not the same colors that we have in the Blue Blood palette, so I wouldn't consider them 100% of a dupe, but you do get, generally speaking, a very similar vibe that you get from the Blue Blood palette. I was very surprised when I first started searching for dupes of the Blue Blood palette that I could hardly find anything, considering that everyone and their neighbor made a dupe of the Huda Beauty New Nude palette. I was actually shocked to find out that there's basically no dupe on the market for the Blue Blood and the Blood Sugar palette, even though they have been the 2 most hyped eyeshadow palettes in the last 2 years. I don't know if it's because people feel like they are hard to compete with, or it's simply because there are so many eyeshadow palettes coming out that companies just decided to dupe other ones instead. But I'm really happy that we have Makeup Revolution delivering these amazing dupes. I'm going to now insert for you some swatches. On the bottom you have the Blue Blood palette swatches, and on the top you have the Revolution palette swatches. As you can see, the colors are slightly different, but I couldn't find any dupe of a shade from the Revolution palette. I just simply swatched a random shade that doesn't have a correlating shade in the Blue Blood palette, if that makes sense. So this is how today's makeup turned out. I think the 2 palettes are super similar, as long as you want to work with the blue shades. Like I said before, the darker blue shades are unfortunately not available in the Revolution dupe, but instead you get this gorgeous gold and silver. Let me swatch them for you. This is the silver shade and this is the gold shade. Oh, these two, especially the silver, are you kidding me? The Revolution Flawless Eyes eyeshadow palette has 12 months shelf life, contains 18 shades which have 1.1 grams of product in each pan, and was made in the People's Republic of China. The Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette has also 12 months shelf life, contains more product than the Dupe does, 1.5 grams of product per pan, meaning there is an extra 0.4 grams of product per pan. Was made in the USA. As we all know, he makes his eyeshadow palettes in Los Angeles. And whilst the Makeup Revolution palette retails for £10 here in the UK, the Jeffree Star palettes retail for £48, and the only official retailer in the UK is Beauty Bay. You can order from other online retailers such as Jeffree Star himself or Beautylish, for example, but if you order from them, the product is coming from the USA and you will need to pay duty fees. So now, without further ado, let's jump right into creating this eye makeup look, because I want to talk to you about how I created them, which shades I used, and what did I think about each shade that I used. Spoiler alert, I think the Revolution palette is absolutely amazing. I actually think that the Revolution side turned out more colorful, more beautiful. I think the white is popping more. The Jeffree Star side looks a little bit more dull. Other than that, obviously it's an amazing palette. I think Jeffree Star has one of the best eyeshadow formulas out there. Nevertheless, for £10, if you decide to go with the Revolution one, I think you're getting a really good palette. So without further ado, let's jump right into the tutorial. Let me show you how I made this eye makeup look, and then I will give you my final thoughts about the two palettes. Alright, so we are gonna be using the Blue Blood on this side of the face and the Revolution Forever Flawless Eyes palette on this side of the face. Now, there are a couple of looks that I would really love to create, but unfortunately not all shades are available in both of the palettes, so I am a little bit limited in what I can do today. I feel like this Revolution palette is really strong as far as the blue and the nude shades go, so we are gonna be creating an eye makeup look using those colors, because it wouldn't be fair if I was using the pink and the turquoise shades from the Blue Blood palette. I have already applied some MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly, and now I'm gonna add 2 shadow shields. And before we would go in with any of the blue shades, I just wanna set the primer with some beige color. And for that, I'm gonna take the shade Priceless from the Blue Blood palette. Now this is technically the same color as my skin, so obviously I don't expect this color to show up at all. This is just gonna be a nice base to be able to work on. So on top of this is gonna be much easier to blend those blue colors. The most similar shade in the Flawless Eyes palette is probably the shade Frostbite, even though Frostbite is a little bit closer to Wealthy than it is to Priceless, but basically the only two options we have is Frostbite or Climate, and Climate is definitely a dupe of Celebrity Skin. So I'm going to go with the shade Frostbite, even though it's a lot lighter than the other one. If I had to choose, I definitely would have chose something more similar to Priceless, but like I said, unfortunately we don't have anything like that in the Flawless Eyes palette. So next, using the same brush, we're gonna take the shade I'm Cold, and we're gonna finally start building up that blue shade on the lid. Even though it's such a light blue shade, I feel like it's really easily building up on top of itself. on the other side, I'm gonna take the shade Crystal and repeat the same thing. Yes, these are definitely really similar colors. So now we're gonna start darkening up the crease. So I'm gonna need to find two medium to dark blue shades that are fairly similar. I'm gonna start with the shade Blue Monday, which is a medium blue shade with a hint of purple in it. And it's matte, so it's gonna be perfect to start building up the crease color. I do get quite a lot of fallout on my lid, but we will come back later and clean it up, so it's fine. Once I added some shade, I take my blending brush and I just blend it out. This is how much I managed to build up this Blue Monday shade. It's definitely not my favorite shade. I feel like it's really hard to build it up. Every single time you go on to blend it, it's just blending away. So I'm gonna leave it like this. We are going to go back with a darker shade in a second, but first I'm gonna add the similar shade to the Revolution side as well. So the Revolution side has this shade called Iceberg, and I feel like this is gonna be the shade that's similar to it. Now Iceberg does look a bit lighter, but Arctic is too dark, Ocean is too vivid, H2O is too washed out, so it's definitely Iceberg. In the pan they actually look super similar, but Blue Monday turned darker and more subtle on my eye, so as long as Iceberg does the same, they're gonna look identical. Okay, so I feel like so far it's not so bad. It's definitely more of a true blue. Blue Monday has a bit more purple in it. This shade also has a lot of fallouts, just like Blue Monday does. And when I blend it, it blends away. I feel like it's easier to build it up though, because after the first blending and reapplying the shade, it started really nicely building up on top of itself, and now it's just looking better and better. So I think Iceberg might be actually a winner over Blue Monday. Bear in mind it is a different color. You can very clearly see that on the screen, I think. But overall this shade performed a lot better. Okay, so to take a darker blue color, we are going to need to take something shimmery. The reason being is because whilst in the Blue Blood palette you have shades like Undertaker or Cremated, which are the two darkest shades, in the Revolution palette you don't have anything like this, so we are going to have to work with the shade Ocean Ice, which I believe it's like a pressed glitter shade, but we are gonna take this for now and we're gonna go from there. This shade is not really going to work with a normal brush, so I'm just taking some, using my finger to kinda build up that shade on the outer corner. I'm gonna leave it like that for now, and I'm gonna take now the Revolution palette again, and we are going to take the shade Arctic and just kind of do the same thing. The shade itself is very similar, but this one is not a pressed glitter. It's definitely not as thick as the other color. You can definitely use a brush with this blue shade because this one performs much more like any other eyeshadow. Now, before we would build up the outer corner any darker than this, I'm going to go off camera and I'm gonna do a half cut crease to make space for the lighter colors. Alright, so the cut crease is done. Now I'm gonna take some of the shade Cullinan and apply it on top of the concealer. First, I'm just applying it using my finger, and then I take some on my favorite smudger brush. As you can see, it looks like a proper mess right now, but we are going to clean it up in a second. Now let's repeat the same thing on the Revolution side. The shade here is called Cool. Alright, let me go and clean this up quickly. Okay, so as you can see, I have removed the shadow shields and I fixed the cut crease as much as I could. Now we are going to start working on the outer corner again a bit more. And this time we are going to start from where the white and the dark shade meet. And first I'm going to take some of that light blue shade again that we used before all over the crease, and that is called I'm Cold, and I'm gonna apply that shade on top of the white, just where they meet. Once again, on the Revolution side it's called Crystal. Next, I'm going to take some of the shade Power, which is a cool toned grayish blue shade. As you can see, I add that one right next to the light blue. On the Revolution side, the shade that looks the most similar to it is called H2O. Now I'm gonna take a blending brush, again with the shade I'm Cold, which is a lighter blue we used, and we kind of going to diffuse these colors into each other. Obviously, again, I'm getting a lot of fallout because I'm flicking off the colors, so that's quite normal. Similar to that, on the Revolution side, I'm gonna take some more of the shade Crystal. Funnily enough, I feel like on the Revolution side, I get less fallout and it's actually more pigmented. Okay, and now we're gonna need to work on the darkest shade, and we are going to add some of that under the eye as well. So on the Revolution side, I'm taking some of Arctic again, and first I apply it under the eye and to the outer corner. I think it looks really nice so far on the Revolution side. On the Jeffree side, I'm not gonna just go on with Ocean Ice because I find it really hard to work with. So I'm gonna go with Cremated first, which I know it's a different color, so it's a bit unfair to mix in something else. But I just think that this one is, being a matte color, much easier to work with. And then I'm gonna top this up with a bit of Ocean Ice when I'm done. Actually, I'm gonna leave it like this. I'm not gonna add Ocean Ice on top of it because it looks quite good right now. I don't want to mess it up, especially because, like I said, Ocean Ice only can be applied using your finger. So I'm gonna go off camera now and finish my makeup, and then I will be back. So once again, here is the completed makeup look. I think they both turned out very, very beautiful, but I'm not gonna lie, I prefer the Revolution side. I just feel like things were more pigmented on that side, even though not every shade is available that is in the Blue Blood palette. The shades that are available are really, really nice. They can be different. Some of the shades are not the same depth, but the shades we have are not patchy. They are not blending away into nothingness, and this makeup look, I mean, I don't know guys, I do prefer the Revolution one, which is crazy. I feel like just like all the other companies making dupes, Revolution is also stepping up their game, and I'm very happy with this palette. I'm very much looking forward to the Flawless Love palette, which is a dupe of the Blush Sugar palette, because I want to see if that performs better than the original one as well or not. As I said, this is technically the only actual dupe available on the market for the Blue Blood palette, so I'm super happy that it performs so good, because if we didn't have this one, we would technically have no real dupe of the Blue Blood palette. Once again, you don't get every single shade, unfortunately, but you get most of them. With the shades that you don't get in the Revolution palette, but you do get in the Blush Sugar palette, I will do at some point a one palette 3 looks tutorial, because I want to show you how all of the shades look like, so definitely stay tuned for that. I have uploaded another video on my channel before where I used the cheaper Revolution palette that is considered being kind of Blue Blood dupe. So once you finish watching this video, definitely go check that out. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, it's very important. And also very important, take care of yourself until next time. I will see you very soon. Bye.